And for everybody just joining us, welcome to today's Lunch with Haley webinar. Really excited to spend the next hour with you as we're going to talk about how to get more people to your website and get those people who are coming to your website to take action. So we're taking a look at the world of SEO and AIO and website CRO, and I'm sure we can come up with some other acronyms. In fact, I'm positive there's a few in there. Joining me today is Becca Sarnes, our Director of Creative Services, Brad Smith, our Chief Strategy Officer, and Sean Jonacki, our Senior Marketing Strategist, who basically teaches us all what we need to know about SEO stuff. But I'm going to kick off. I get the easy part. I'm going to do some of the background information to get this rolling. So, one of the things we don't think about very often in staffing is that if we're struggling to get job orders, one of the things that could be wrong is our website, or if we're struggling to fill orders as fast as our clients want, it's a good chance the website's to blame. The data's kind of scary, and I'll show you that in just a second. Here you go. If you look across all websites, not just the staffing industry, the percentage of people who visit a website without taking action is a whopping 98% of visitors. They come, they don't fill out a form, they don't talk to your chatbot, they don't do much of anything. They basically show up and leave without ever taking action. Today's webinar is in a large part about identifying these people. And maybe your company, it's not 98%, but there's a significant percentage of people, employers and job seekers, who are gathering information about you, getting answers to questions they have, but they're not finding a reason to take action. Then one of the other big challenges right now is there's a lot of staffing websites, I'd venture to say, that's probably closer to that 98% again, that were built sometime before 2023. So before 2023, we were all focused on recruiting. That was our biggest challenge. And so we were building candidate first websites all around the candidate experience. And while you shouldn't be ignoring candidates right now, we may have undervalued the focus on the employers. And even though I know many, many websites have almost this 50-50 split of employer versus job seeker, after that top section of the homepage, right now it tends to be candidate first. And you might want to look at other strategies to be client first in this particular economy. And maybe it's just time to consider a change. If you want a website to sell more, you need a website that is designed to sell. So what we're going to be doing today is actually showing you the website end of how you design to sell. And then we're going to jump over and show you how to look at SEO and the newer term AIO, AI optimization, to get more people coming to your site. All right. So I get to continue through step one, optimizing for response. So we're going to talk, this is like a crash course in our first acronym of the day, CRO, or conversion rate optimization. So we're going to go through a few best practices, and then after that, we will jump into some design tips from Becca. Yeah. Right. So CRO, it's really simple. It's a formula. Basically, it says out of the number of people coming to my website, how many of them take action as a percentage? So if 100 people come to my website and 4 people fill out a contact form, or they interact with my chatbot, that would be a 4% conversion rate. From the first stat, most companies are only getting about a 2% conversion rate. We want to see what we can do to increase those numbers dramatically. So there are 3 things we want to look at. What are the drivers? What brings people to your website? And actually taking it a step further, who are the various buyer personas? People coming to your website. So you've got your current clients, you've got prospective clients, you've got your current talent that you're placing on assignment, you've got candidates that you're trying to get placed, you've got people that are just looking for jobs. Maybe they're ready to apply, or maybe they're just looking for help figuring out what's next. So we have to think about, for all of those different categories of people, why are they coming to your website? What are they looking for? What's their intent? What are they trying to do? Then there are the hooks. What things are there on the site that get people to take action? And we're trying to avoid the barriers. What things are on the website that prevent people from responding? And this is one of the ones I think is often overlooked, is all of the little things from website performance to design issues that actually chase people away before they take action. So the drivers, who's coming to your website? We mentioned job seekers, employers, current associates, current clients. These are all of the people that you might do business with, but also the people who can refer you business, the partners, the vendors, people with whom you have a relationship or they're looking to learn more about you. And what you really want to be thinking about, I skipped out one, the candidates for internal jobs, is thinking about what problem are they trying to solve? What questions are they asking that brought them to my website? Did they come because they were already in the market for staffing services? Or are they trying to solve some other business problem and they found a blog post on our website? You also will be thinking about different entry points to your website. And you can think of it as, on your home, you've got different doors. You've got a garage door, you've got a front door, you may have a side door. They're all different ways into your home that lead to different areas of the house. Your website's got the same thing. It's got different doorways. But unlike your house, those doorways can come from anything somebody types into a search engine or into an AI engine that brings them back to a specific page. So we need to think about what's that room going to look like that they first enter when they come through the doorway. And that's next about the drivers is they're coming because maybe they need help. Maybe they have a question. Very often they're people who are referred to you and they're trying to really understand what you do and how you can help them. So if from my section of today, you take nothing else away, the one thing you can do as a takeaway is go to your salespeople and ask them for the next week to write down every question every prospect asks. Because if you know those questions, you can start designing the content of your website to provide the answers. And do the same thing with your recruiters. Ask them every question that candidates are asking. Because before they're asking them to your team, those people are asking them to search engines. They're asking them to the AI LLM that you're using. Now, getting people to take action, the CTA, the call to action. We can get people to take action by offering them a solution to a problem. We can provide an answer to a question. We can give away something of value, whether that can be something like a white paper, or it might be something that's actually a tool that you offer. We can put offers called CTAs or calls to action throughout the site. And one of the things that's really important from a copywriting standpoint is thinking about two different types of offers, primary and secondary. And without getting into too much detail, the primary offers are the ones that are closer to the sale. Apply to a job, request an employee. They're the things that for the person responding to that offer, that's actually more emotional risk because they're saying, yeah, I want to talk to a salesperson. Yeah, I want to talk to a recruiter. I'm ready to get out there looking for a job. The secondary offers are the softer ones. They're the ones that aren't as threatening. They get people to start to engage with your brand, to start to build this feeling of I like and trust you so that they'll then come back when it's time for the primary offer. So there's lots of them. You can brainstorm these. I just have a few on the screen here, and I'm not going to read you every bullet here because I've already read enough bullets. But what I'd like to do is just challenge your thinking about all of those different primary and secondary actions people might take. All of the things you might offer to them when they come to your website. This is a great thing to brainstorm. And again, go back to that list of questions because every question can lead to an offer you can make to someone. And last part of my section, the barriers. So what are the things that stop people from taking action? The biggest one, and we see this on websites all the time, is there's no call to action. There's no offer. It's just text. And we're hoping that at some point they'll go click the contact page because the text was so good. Hint, that doesn't happen very often. There's offers that require that emotional commitment that I was just talking about. If I apply to a job, that's me telling the world I'm looking for work. And if I'm currently employed, that may be a scary thing to do. So I might want to talk to somebody before I apply. Or if I'm in HR and I'm thinking about bringing in a new staffing vendor, I might be putting my job on the line to bring you in as a new vendor. So I want to get answers to questions before I'm going to fill out your request an employee form. our people don't have an attention span, and we're making them work too hard to get to the offer. So there's this balance we have, and Sean and Brad and I can all go back and forth in this between humans who don't spend time reading anything and search engines which want long, very detailed, very complete content. And how do you create information for both? And Becca will get into one of her favorite topics, crappy designs. Because if your design doesn't match what you're telling the world, that creates distrust. And we see a lot of websites that if we ask the owner of the company to describe their brand, it would be nothing like the website looks. Bad copy. This is one of my areas. A copy that's too long, too salesy, too much hype. If the copy is all about we, the person selling, that usually turns off the person reading. So when you can look at the words in your website, you should be using words like you and your about 3 times more than you're saying we or are. Simple lack of clarity. We're using words that people don't understand. We're not providing clear direction of what to do next. And that can be in the copy, the main navigation, the calls to action. Sometimes we like to be really clever with our website copy, but that's really bad for response. People lack patience. Site that takes too long to load. It takes too long to find what I want. I'm going to be out of there. Or there's an inability to respond. You have to be able to respond on any device. And I've seen websites where there's a really big application form when someone goes to apply that doesn't work at all on a mobile device. And that's how most of your candidates are trying to apply. Site's just simply too slow and we don't have any patience. Poor navigational structure. The structure of the site should funnel you to a desired action. It should be very deliberately thought out from the homepage to where people are going to go next, or from those various doorway pages to where you want them to go once they've come into the house. And simply forms that are too long. There's kind of a rule in building a web form that every field, every piece of information you ask for after 3 pieces of data reduces your response. Now, that doesn't mean you should always have 3 or less, because sometimes you actually want to reduce response. You want to qualify people out. But more times than not, we're asking for more information than we really need. All right. And then I just brought up my goldfish picture because the goldfish, which has an 8-second attention span, beats us humans who have less than an 8-second attention span, thanks to our addiction to technology and mobile devices. All right. We are going to now switch over to Becca. And sort of ironically, the crowd that has been around me because of where I'm presenting all left now that it's time to switch presenters, but I will still mute myself in case they come back. And Becca, I'll let you take over and talk about designing for response.
Thanks, David. And that's always how that happens, isn't it? So, how does conversion rate optimization look in practice? So, we can hop to the next slide. What we're really looking for when we are designing is we're trying to get somebody to a thank you page. When someone lands on that thank you page, that means that they filled out a form, they took an action that you wanted them to take. That could be they applied, they filled a form, they contacted you in some way. And there's a bunch of different ways that we can get people there, different types. We can use blog posts where we attract people with useful information and information that they might be looking for, services page to explain what you do. And you want to make sure that this is compelling with some sort of reason for them to respond now. If you just make it generic, and we'll talk a little bit more about content, they're not going to have any reason to fill out the form or to keep continuing through their website. The about page, you want to explain why you do and what you do, and you want to make people want to work with you. Why should these people choose you versus your competitor? And then
Becca, before you go on that one, I just want to add one
oh yeah,
thing that I see very often is when you get to the about page or sometimes the home page, um, people like to put a testimonial on there, but they're afraid to show things that really prove their value, whether it's data or whether it's even the logos of clients they work with. That about page, when you were talking about make people want to work with you, one of the biggest reasons people want to work with an organization is they think that organization specializes in companies just like them or people just like them. So they have to see that in your about page. So I just wanted to add that in there.
yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at some good and bad designs for that homepage. But social proof is huge to get people to want to work with you. And then, of course, the contact page. You want to make it easy, as David mentioned, make those forms short, make them really easy for people to contact you and get in touch with you. And they can get to this page from any page. So this really should be something that you are linking across your site as one of your calls to action. You might have different versions of contact pages depending on who the audience is on that particular page that they're coming from. And for every page on your website, you really want to think about how will visitors get here? And I know Brad and Sean will talk more about that. How are people actually finding and getting to those pages on your site? And then what do they want to do next once they land on that page? So what happens when people get to your website? So they're going to be looking at a couple different questions. What do you do? They're trying to find out what it is that you do when they come to your website. They're going to look at how do you do it? How are you going to achieve what it is that they're looking for? Can you do it for me? Can you actually do what they are looking to do? And are they in the right place? Am I in the right place? If you can't answer these questions, these 4 simple questions within the first 3 to 5 seconds, you're going to lose visitors. And as David mentioned, goldfish, humans have a very short attention span. You need to try and grab them in those 3 to 5 seconds and answer those questions. So he also mentioned that too often we see clever content that lacks clarity. What we see on websites is often, a clever headline on the top of the page trying to get you to take action, but it leaves the user wondering, what do you do? They can't answer that first question. And then as you scroll down that page, and David, can you pull up the image? I'm kind of work. Yeah, thank you there. Yeah, so that first section, if it's too clever, people won't know what you do. They won't be able to answer that first question. And if they scroll down, you'll see, okay, here's what you do. Here's all your services. I can see what you do, but you're not seeing how you're different. Why should I choose you versus someone else? They keep scrolling. They might see your specialties. Okay, great. But is this right for me? Leaves them wondering if you're the right fit. And then you can list all your services, but if you have long paragraphs, long content, nobody's going to read all of that. So what can we do instead? So to create a high converting web page, we really want that first header when somebody comes onto the page to say what you do, to really clearly define this is what we do and what we can do for you. We can still have that clever copy because that's a really great way to pull your brand into the page and create your personality on the website. But we should put it in the subheads. That shouldn't be the number one thing on there. That should be something that is supporting to the what do you do to answer those fundamental questions that everyone's asking when they come to their site. You want to have primary and secondary CTAs, as David mentioned. So you want to have those direct calls to action to contact us, fill out a form, search for jobs, but also secondary CTAs, download a white paper, sign up for our newsletter. Those are for people who maybe aren't quite ready to buy, but you still want to get that conversion and get them to keep staying in touch with you and seeing who you are so that they'll may come back and next time they'll hit that primary CTA. And social proof. We talked about this. You want to make sure that you are showing those logos and testimonials and data. It is really, really helpful. I mean, how many times have you gone to a site and you trust it because you've seen other companies on that site who trust using that company? I know, as David mentioned, a lot of staffing firms don't like to put their clients up there, but it can be a huge differentiator versus your competitor if you're showing those logos of who you work with on your site to get other uh, clients in the door. Video and explainer video is a really great way to, again, design for response. Having multiple different ways for somebody to understand your content and what you do. So some people want to read, some people might just want to watch a video to learn what you do. So having those different options can give you multiple ways to for someone to interact with your webpage and learn what it is that you do and whether or not you can do what they do for them. Repeatable images and repeatable CTAs. Having that repetition on the site helps to drive home what it is that you do and makes it more memorable and is more likely for someone to convert. If they may not be ready to hit it the first time that they see that CTA, but if they see it again and again, they'll be more likely to then hit those CTAs. So yeah, just a real quick visualization right off the top. What do you do? Answer that question in that first section. Can I trust you? We're answering that second question, showing logos, data, social proof. How do you do it? Have copy and explainer video. Can you do it for me? And then do you do it for people like me? Having those testimonials on other section and making sure as you go down that page, you're answering all of those fundamental questions that somebody is asking when they come to your website. All right. And how can we actually do this? So we want to use proven design layouts. So there's a couple different layouts you'll hear that designers might talk about when we are building a website. One of them is a Z layout. We'll look at that in a second. The other one is an F pattern, but these repeatable layouts allow somebody to easily scan the page and they don't have to think about it. This goes with the second bullet here. Don't differentiate on usability. You really do want your site to be similar to other sites as far as functionality and the way that people will navigate it because we're familiar with it. We know that if we go to a website, that top bar, we're going to be able to find the navigation, find the blog, find the services pages, find the other pages. We have these basic ideas of how a website should work. And if we don't have to figure out how the website works, it'll be a lot easier for us to then go and find and answer those questions. So the UX should be frictionless. Make it as easy as possible for somebody to navigate your site, to get to what it is they're trying to do, to get to that thank you page and that conversion page. All of the visual hierarchy should align with the messaging. So making sure that you've got headlines and subheadlines and small paragraphs that makes for right off the bat, if you're skimming the page, you can tell what you do, get a little bit of supporting information about that. And then if you really want to dive deeper, you can get some more information in the paragraph. But off the bat, just being able to see visually what it is you do without having to put in much effort to find it. And this is a pretty surprising stat, but a lot of people like to put carousels or flip cards or things on their websites, and only 5.7% of people will click on those things. So it's best to lay everything out on the page and let people scroll to find it versus having to click. They will almost never click. And then here's that Z pattern I was talking about. On the top of the page, you've got the logo. People are going to go across the page like they're reading a book, see that sign up button, go through that hero image, and then see helpful text and another call to action button. And if we lay things out like that, that's how people typically read, and they'll be more likely to find the information that they are looking for on the page. And again, for messaging, focus on clarity over clever. Make sure that you are really driving home what it is that you do and making sure that it is super clear for someone in 3 to 5 seconds to find out what it is that you do. Don't assume that people know what you do or how you work. You want to make sure that's all laid out on your website, easy for someone to figure out what it is you. And I mentioned already, use headlines and subheads to make it easy to skim. A lot of people don't want to read heavy content, so they're just going to come and think about yourself. When I go to a website, I'm really just skimming a lot of the headlines until there's something that catches my attention and I want to read more. And that's how most people consume website content. So keep the paragraph short and keep those headlines easy to skim. Make sure you add testimonials and social proof to every page. If there's anything I could drive home from this, it's make sure you have that social proof and make sure you kill any unsubstantiated claims. Make sure that, everything is based in truth. Websites that convert are not about design. Design matters, but it's the copy that sells. And I'm now going to hand it over to Brad and Sean for how do they actually find your website?
Guys, before we jump into the next section, there was a question that came in, and it's a perfect segue question because it talks about both design and content. So, what's the best website for conversion? Is it going to be a one-page kind of a site or a site with multiple pages? Becca, since we just did design, why don't you share your thoughts? And then I saw Sean chomping at the bit to answer already.
Yes.
I'm sure Sean definitely has an answer for this one. From a design perspective and a content perspective, I definitely recommend having multiple pages over one. People, as much as people do scroll, they're still not going to scroll that far. So being able to break that content up across multiple pages, you're going to be able to communicate more effectively and hit people at the very top of that page on each page. And I know Sean's going to jump in because it's also really good for SEO and AIO to have more pages.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're trying to do as a business. And also, you got to realize that it's okay to have more than one asset to try to get a thing done. So if you are trying to rank in a specific area for light industrial staffing, you should have a light industrial staffing page that's fully built out for SEO. It may not be 100% built for conversion, but if you're also then running Google ads in the area for that specific thing, it may not make sense to send people to that SEO page. You may want to build a separate page that is specifically built for CRO. It may be way leaner, way less copy, but it should be way more hard hitting. It's, are you looking for dependable workers fast in this area? Here's why we're the best. Here's some of our reviews. Here's the 20 or so areas that we're trying to fill right now. Click here to hire talent. Something like that makes sense in the context of doing a Google ad versus trying to get that to rank in SEO. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, and you shouldn't be afraid of having multiple assets for everything that you do.
And Sean, I think that aligns perfectly with Becca's point, which she mentioned a few times. Be clear, not necessarily just clever. And Becca, I'm seeing this trend where people are trying to be more clever, even in their navigation. And I don't know how you feel about this, but it frustrates me to no end because as a job seeker, I'm going there. I want to search jobs. If you're naming it in some strange way or you're burying that in your navigation and it takes me 3 or 4 clicks to get there, I'm not going there. The same thing happens on the employer side. I need to look at your services. I want to know what industries you specialize in, and then, as Becca and Sean mentioned, just be clear. So, Becca, I'm assuming you kind of agree with the clarity in your navigation too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As much as it kills me as a designer because I want to be clever and creative, it really is easier to just leave the navigation in such a way that everyone can understand it. I mean, every site, the navigation should be at the top and you know exactly where you should go to get where you're trying to go.
There's another
Yeah.
question. Somebody said, what do you mean by social proof?
Mm.
So social proof is basically the rest of the internet talking about you. So do you have reviews? Do you have press releases? Have you been featured in podcast? Every mention or review that belongs to your company that is outside of your website is social proof. Social media is also involved in that as well.
Yeah, and also pulling that onto your site as testimonials, video testimonials. If you have data or stats to back up your work, that's a great thing to show on your website, as well as we mentioned like logos of the company that you work with and have been trusted by.
Question's kind of a perfect segue to our next section, which is really getting found the new rules. So let's talk a little bit about winning at SEO, which has been on people's radar for the last decade, and AIO, and we'll introduce a few other acronyms. So I apologize ahead of time, but I want to start off by getting a little participation here. So real quick, group exercise. You're going to drop your answer in chat. I got 3 of these. So the first is you need quick dinner ideas for the week. Where are you going to find and get that information? You pulling a recipe book? You Googling it? Are you asking ChatGPT or Gemini or your LLM of choice? Or are you going to TikTok or YouTube? So drop A, B, or C into the chat real quick here. Okay, we're seeing some people are Googling, 1 or 2 people are going to the shelf, more and more people are going to chat. I don't see too many people going to TikTok or YouTube. All right. Next question. We're going to do the same thing here. Drop your answer in the chat. You want to learn a new skill. Where are you going to go to learn a new skill? Are you going to read a manual? Are you going to search Google for maybe some answers or tips? Are you going to ask ChatGPT for a step-by-step process? Or are you going to search YouTube for a video, a tutorial, or something else? Will tell you my son is 17. He just taught himself how to play guitar over the last like 2 months by watching YouTube and TikTok videos. It's wild to me. It's just a wealth of information, though. So I like this. So a lot of people are saying C, then I'm going to B, B, then D, C, and D. So we're all over the board here. Chat or Copilot, YouTube. Okay, good. And last one. Candidate, let's put yourself in the candidate shoes. You're preparing for a job interview. What are you going to do? Are you asking a mentor or a friend? Maybe that mentor is your friendly recruiter. You're searching Google for tips and suggestions. Are you having a conversation with AI, so using voice AI and running through sample interview questions and maybe some role playing and some coaching? Or D, are you completely winging it and hoping to stay on unemployment? I'm expecting to see some comedians there with D's. Oh, Ashley is doing A, B, and C. So she's definitely not falling into that D category. C, then B. All right, perfect. Maybe C now. Okay, good. Awesome. All right, so that whole exercise was really leading to this. How we find information is changing dramatically. And as you can see from the chat, it changes person to person. It's going to change week to week. And I think it's going to change dramatically as we move forward over the next 6 to 12 months. And the reason that I started off with dinner recipes is because how I've used the internet and how a lot of people are is changing dramatically. No longer is it, hey, Google, give me 5 dinner ideas for tonight or this week. It is, hey, I need 5 dinner ideas for this week. I need 3 that are 30-minute meals. I need 2 that could be reheated. You need to make sure that there's protein in it because I have a 17-year-old that wants to bulk up. You can't have anything with fish or seafood. You can't have anything with peanuts or peanut butter or a nut allergy. So the search has expanded from a simple give me dinner ideas to give me dinner ideas with all of these stipulations. And the same is true for how we search and make business decisions, make buying decisions, make career decisions. It's no longer a simple, 2 or 3 word search. It is a full paragraph dissertation that is completely customized to me and my individual needs. So when we're thinking about SEO, AIO, AEO, GEO, we need to keep that in mind that we need to create a wealth of customized and very specific information in order to win that battle. So let's take a look at some traditional SEO. Historically, over the last decade, certain companies have done really well. They've had a keyword focus or general focus. They've written a ton of content around some specific terms, and they've won. But what we're seeing, and maybe what you're seeing in your own business and your own website, is a decline in overall traffic to your site. We are seeing it across the industry. There's less volume of search, and traditional SEO winners are starting to lose some of that visibility. And Sean, you brought up a really good example in HubSpot. Do you want to walk us through what they're seeing or what you're seeing in their search trends?
Yeah, so for years and years, HubSpot has been the marketing resource about everything for everyone. And that is no longer a good strategy because Google and LLMs are prioritizing folks that focus on their topical authority. And that means basically as a website, who are you? Have you defined it? And then are you writing and answering questions that your customers and folks that are related to your industry are asking? And are you doing that at scale? And that's really how you win nowadays. And we're seeing if you don't stick to that model and if you just write about everything, you're getting penalized now. Case in point, HubSpot. They went from 6 million monthly visitors to 2 million keywords and 24 million visitors all the way down to 4 million. It also has to do with they're writing 1,200 to 1,500 word blog posts that's not what people want to read anymore. I'm expecting my answer quick. I'm asking a question. I want you to give it to me in a paragraph form in AI overview or in ChatGPT or served up as a short video in social medias or in YouTube or so on.
Yeah, that's a great point. So the lack of topical authority is equaling a lack of visibility as we move forward. So it's vitally important that as business owners, we understand who our specific buyers are, who is involved in that buyer process, and what do they truly care about. What is their business goal? What's their day-to-day goal of their job? And what are the biggest challenges they face? That should be your topical authority, where you fit into that equation, where you add value. If you don't know that and you're just general, like Shauna just mentioned with HubSpot, you're going to lose some of that visibility over time. So I want to introduce you to a few acronyms that we must know as we move forward. So SEO, search engine optimization, you're probably familiar with that. We're making changes and updates and edits to our website and content to rank in Google and the other search engines. engines. The next is AIO. We need to make sure that we're optimizing our website, our content, our digital footprint for the large language models. And we'll get into some ways that you can do that. The next acronym is GEO. Again, we're going to dig into each one of these and what they mean, is generative engine optimization. And finally, AEO, answer engine optimization. David mentioned this earlier when he was talking about CRO, and you need to write content that answers the search queries or the biggest problems that prospects have. That's a great way to improve your search rank and your rank in large language models. So we'll get into some very specific examples here for staffing companies. So SEO, I get this question all the time. Is SEO dead? No, it's still absolutely critical to your business and your online visibility. But we need to transform from just traditional SEO. So traditional SEO was really around keyword and keyword rankings. And we are trying to, in some cases, game the system to own staffing in our market. Now we need to make sure that our content is very focused around those key drivers. And we have that topical authority, which Sean mentioned. We need to make sure that we know who we are, what we deliver, where we provide value, and who our buyers are, and create topical authority around those things. And the LLMs or the AI now reference Google results a little bit differently. So historically, what would happen with SEO is that humans would click one of the top 3 results. Sometimes maybe an ad, but usually they're not scrolling past those top 3 results. So traditional SEO was focused all around an individual keyword. We were hyper focused on where we rank for a keyword. We were trying to get in the top 3. Now, the LLMs are pulling that content from anywhere. They're still mostly pulling it from page 1, and it's a good authority signal there. But if we create a wealth of content around a specific topic and we rank in the 8 or 9 slot or the 6 or 7 slot for a variety of different search terms that are relevant to the personas we're selling into, we're going to win that game. So being on page 1 matters more than ever. But just because you're not in the top 3 for one individual specific keyword doesn't mean that your SEO and AEO is falling behind. Now, with that said, Sean, I'm going to pass it over to you. You want to introduce the concept of AIO?
Sure. AIO is basically on the Google side showing up when you search something. Nowadays in Google, there's usually an AI overview, or sometimes they'll automatically show you AI mode. And basically that's it. It's the new version of Google. There's also implications in AI, like, or LLMs like chat and so on. We'll talk about that. But want to show the rest of this here? It's really about structuring your content now in a way that can quickly be served up as an answer. Again, people don't want a 1,200 word article to answer their question. They want, I'm looking for a thing. Here's the answer to your thing. So that means structured data, incorporating FAQs, list, schema markup on your location pages. You're just kind of structuring your content in a way that can be easily pulled out in snippets and served up to people across all the different new ways of SEO. You, Brad, like to talk about this. They ask you answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because I'm just looking at the comments in the chat here, and Ryan just mentioned, asked a question. How do you feel about Marcus Sheridan? They ask you answer. Ryan, I bet you can assume that now that we have it up on the slide, I feel pretty strongly about it. I think it's an amazing methodology, and it's a great book. They ask you answer. Basically, it's the concept of knowing what your buyers, what your prospects, and what your candidates are asking, and then being the source of that answer. So David mentioned this earlier. It's vitally important that your recruiters and your salespeople are having these conversations with the people that they're talking to day in and day out, and then documenting all of the questions that they are getting frequently. And there'll be a wealth of those questions, but that becomes your AIO content strategy. Write content around all of those questions that they are asking so that you show up in AI overviews, so that you improve your SEO and you become and own the answer for all of those questions. So Ryan, I love it.
The next slide shows what that looks like. So I pulled this, I typed into Google, what is workforce management? And in the past, in the old days, it was a top 10 list. This is what it looks like now, AI overviews. And so number two there is workforce management. What is WFM by Paycor? The next slide will show what their page looks like. You see how they're framing their content? Can you switch to the next slide, please? At the top of their article here, they have a 1 minute takeaway. That's mostly for the LLMs. So if you're wondering what this article is about, here is 3 sentences that summarize the entire thing. And then at the bottom, if you were looking for questions that were just a little bit different than what is workforce management, we also have what is remote workforce management, what is external, what is total. So we're creating these additional content clusters around our articles to try to win these AI optimization opportunities. This is what that looks like.
And I'm a huge proponent of those additional FAQs. I think it's a great opportunity for you to become the answer engine and extend your content and answer, related terms and build your topical authority. Sean, GEO. I know you're a big proponent of this. Can be challenging, but you want to introduce the concept?
I do. So a lot of folks, when they're talking about AIO, they're talking about ChatGPT. It can be in play there, but I like to use GEO as the acronym for chat. So basically, if you're doing research in ChatGPT, if you're talking and saying, I'm looking to hire warehouse workers, what is a good light industrial staffing firm in the area that I'm in, say Virginia or whatever, and then they give you an answer. Here's the 7 that I found. A lot of the times, people are going to be like, all right, well, hey, how do I get my company to be one of these 7? This is what we're looking at when it comes to GEO. So it's basically, how do I get listed or how do I get referenced? And there's 2 different aspects here. I would say it's about 40% things that you can do on your website and 60% things that you should be doing off of your website. To start, you want to do everything that we do in foundational SEO. So if you do light industrial staffing, that should be a page on your site. If you do it in multiple geos across the country, you should have a page for each of those geos that lists that you do light industrial staffing that links to that. And then also having, 1 or 2 blog posts a quarter about light industrial staffing. That gets you the first part. You now have multiple assets that can be found and picked up and served up. But then beyond that, if people start asking questions like, great, I like this company, this company, and this company, which of them have the best ratings? Then they start to look at other places like Clearly Rated, like Yelp, like your Google business profile. If you do searches like I just mentioned and you see a Reddit thread pops up and it may be a person like, hey, I hired this company to do warehouse workers. They were awful. Who do you recommend? You can go in there. Hey, I'm so sorry to hear that you did that. My company does XYZ. Here's a link. Because you found it on page 1, that means it exists on page 1. So others will find it, chat will find it, and so on. So you're looking to create multiple assets and trust signals across the internet to be found and served up as the answer in GEO. There's a lot more to this too. Like YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. If you know some questions are being answered over and over, having YouTube videos that answer those questions, those can get served up in both AI overviews and in ChatGPT. YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, Instagram Shorts, and TikTok can also get served up as well. It's really just creating as many content assets that you can. That's how you win in GEO.
And Sean, I've
Winning
got
the
this
popularity contest.
Sean, I've got this love-hate thing with Reddit. I see it becoming more and more important and showing up in more AI and SEO searches, and it's driving me nuts because I feel like people just go there to complain. But to your point, you really need to know the conversations that are happening there. It could be an opportunity for a staffing company to go in and add some value.
Exactly. I think this is kind of why people are saying, like, is SEO dead? It's not that it's dead. It's just there's so many other things now beyond Google. In the past, it was, 10 results that are mostly websites, and that's what gets served up. Now it's websites and Google Business Profile and these listicles from other companies that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And it's now social platforms are now embedded into Google. So those are no longer siloed channels. There's so many more opportunities to win than beyond your website. So I think that's where that question comes from. But this is another thing I want to talk about. There's something called listicles that is very important in LLMs nowadays. There's 2 ways to look at this. Number one is, as a company, are we open to start to do this? Because if you can talk about your competitors openly and freely, it's an advantage to you. If you want to say like who are the best warehouse staffing companies in wherever you are, list you and list some of your other competitors and talk freely and openly about it. That can get referenced on page one of Google and get picked up like we're seeing here. I typed in a chat, who do clients rate accounting or how do clients rate accounting staffing firms in Dallas? And you see what they served up here as the sources. Top 10 accounting firms in Dallas, top accounting firms in Dallas, best accounting firms to work with. So those are important assets. You should either be working to build them or doing cold outreach at least once a month, doing searches in a way that you think your clients are going to be searching to find you. See what pops up, click these, and then reach out to these websites and say, hey, I see that you have this article here. What would it take for us to get involved? Or if you do it yourself, you can reach out and say, hey, we have these articles. We'll feature you if you feature us. Are you guys open to something like that? Or it could just be, thanks for reaching out. It costs $300 for the year, and it's a pay-to-play opportunity. But this is a really big, important part of both GEO and AEO going forward.
Wonderful. Now we'll transition to the last acronym here,
Yeah.
AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. So this goes beyond just lists to try to be that really one authoritative answer. And I mentioned earlier, and why we did that exercise about dinner ideas was to showcase how people are getting much more granular and specific in their searches. So in the past, people might have typed into Google, IT staffing companies, Houston. Now they might be typing in best IT staffing companies in Houston with a certain amount of revenue, strong cyber security expertise, and maybe like 3 other criteria. So we need to make sure that we're taking that into account, creating content that positions us in that light. We're creating topical authority. We're being transparent on our about pages and getting granular into what we do, where we came from, where we're going. And then we need to get aggressive on generating reviews, on improving our ratings, on developing our proof and expertise. I think case studies are an amazing way to do this. And keep in mind that specificity is going to win in the large language model results. I will tell you, I get this question all the time. Hey, I did a search for, this example, best IT staffing companies in Houston with cybersecurity experience, and my company doesn't show up. What the heck do I need to do? Well, the first thing I would do is go back to chat or that large language model and say, hey, how did you come up with this list? Ask it. It is going to give you a breakdown of all of the criteria that it went through to decide and choose that list. Use that as a checklist and begin going through that and building out your authority on all of those different sources. Then, I did this for one of my clients that wasn't ranking. I went to the LLM. I said, "How did you choose this list?" It gave me the criteria, and I said, "Based on this criteria, it looks like XYZ staffing should be ranked in the top 3 of your list. Would you agree?" It did some thinking. It came back and said, "Yeah, you know what? After a deeper look, I do think that it should be on that list." And I said, "Okay, moving forward, will you include it on the list?" And it said yes. It didn't immediately get them onto the list, but I will tell you that 40 to 50% of future AI searches from other individuals in the company here that did it found that that company started ranking on the list. So don't be afraid to ask the LLM what goes into it and whether or not you've met that criteria threshold to be included. And that could be a good trick to at least get you a little visibility. And Sean, I know you've got an example here to share too.
I do, yeah. So just to show you what this looks like if you were to type this into ChatGPT. So best IT staffing company in Houston with 100 million revenue and strong cybersecurity expertise, choose one. They chose talent groups. And if you look on the side, it's really important, the sources. Number 1 is a press release that the company wrote about themselves. That was used as the main source to make them win this query. So you don't want to sleep on press releases, super important. And then number 2, when you're looking for big picture, like big money, stuff like that, we are finding that SIA does get referenced a lot in LLMs. So don't sleep on them for things like this, and when you're trying to get your news out there, because they're referenced at the top all the time. And then again, surprise, surprise, below that you'll see some more listicles. So 16 best IT staffing agencies in 2025. So it's creating these pages on your website to announce things that are happening, like press releases. It's creating, like if you expand into a new geo, it's building out that geo page. It's having a press release built about it. You may do a YouTube video that you embed. You may, try to get on listicles in that new geo that you're expanding to. It's no longer just we have it as a line item on our homepage. It's how many assets can we create to be found by Google and by LLMs.
Terrific. And real quick, this is Haley Marketing's role. So this is where we really help with driving more traffic. So we've done traditional SEO for the last decade. Now that's bleeding into AIO, GEO, and AEO. So we can certainly help with AIO. We're doing some really unique things where we're looking at Google Search Console. And Sean, I won't get too geeky here, but I know we're both really excited about this, where we're looking at what information the LLMs are actually looking to your site for. And then we're getting those search queries, and then we're building out content so that we're the answer to those queries, and we're the ones that are getting served up in the AI search snippets. So it is getting very scientific, and the way that we're structuring and building out content plans and content strategies is really end goal focused. We want you to show up in those AI overviews. We want you to show up in search. We want you to be that singular answer. And all of our content recommendations are based on this data that we're getting from the LLMs and from Google. So it's a really scientific new way to approach content generation that positions you as a topical authority. And then we do some GEO consulting and auditing. And then with AEO, we are building out personas. So we're thinking about the exact buyer that you're trying to get in front of, and we're creating content that is so specific to their needs that you own the answer when people are searching for that. So again, specificity is winning in LLMs, and it's changing the way that we go about content planning, content writing, content strategy, and we're seeing amazing results with it. So Sean, you want to walk through a action plan and then give your pitch for a free audit?
Sure. Yeah. So again, I always say look at your website and try to figure out, have you done a good job of laying out who you are, what you do, where you do it, and then including proof that you do it well. That should be step one. Don't even think about optimizing for AI or anything else until you do that first. Because if you don't have that and you just start writing blogs or FAQs about things, you're not reinforcing something. So Google isn't going to see you as an authority if you just have one singular asset that answers a question. So super important. And then once you kind of have that figured out, there's a lot more that we can look at. Are you looking to add FAQs to your blogs, to your service line pages? Are you doing things on YouTube? Do you have a podcast? How can we look to be strategic with that? But those are the type of conversations that we can have. And if you wanted to do that, my calendar is open. I'm happy to have those conversations and chat with you. Next slide there, scan that QR code. You can book with me. We'll just go through your website. We'll go through your goals. I did this after our Smart Idea Summit, and the majority of conversations I had were, our website's 10 years old, and we go through and we really figure out, and it seems like, all right, it looks like you're not speaking to who you're trying to reach now. So let's start there. But I'm really open to having these conversations. I love doing it. So feel free, take some time there, book with me, and we could talk.
And I would say this isn't a sales pitch. It's really a list of ideas on what you can do to improve and be more visible.
Hey guys, before we wrap it up, there was a question that came in. How do you suggest bridging internal resistance or pushback about sharing information about competitors beyond the logic of GEO? So I'll take a first stab at that, but please add in if you have more. So if you think about the way you search for something, I want a restaurant, I want a hotel, I got a vacation destination, I'm looking for an HVAC vendor to come fix my furnace. I'm going to research multiple companies. I'm going to find them. So the question I would ask the senior leaders who might be resisting is, do I want my prospects finding the information about the competitors on my website or somebody else's website? Because if I'm afraid, I don't have the courage to talk about my competitors, Well, they're never going to find it on my site. So every time I'm losing that search when someone's trying to do a comparative analysis and trying to find who are the best of the best for staffing services. If your website has a list of the clearly rated top 5 in your market, you're much more likely to have them find your page than if you don't have that at all. Anything to add to that, guys?
I
It
would just
goes
say that
beyond GEO too. It includes AEO. So if somebody is looking for XYZ HVAC company and they say, who are some companies who compare to XYZ HVAC company? And if you have that asset on your site, you can now be served up as the answer just from having that article.
Yeah, and if your competitors are already showing up on that list and you create that article, then you can get yourself added to that list. And then when people are searching for who are the biggest, like Sean just mentioned, who are the biggest competitors for that company, you have a much higher likelihood of showing up with people that didn't know you even existed before. So it's silly not to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys. All right, let's bring it home, and we're gonna end with the beginning of how to figure out where to start with all this stuff because we covered a lot of ground. We actually kind of smushed 2 webinars into one today to get you thinking about getting people to your website, getting more people, employers, job seekers, and then getting those people to take action. So where CRO meets SEO and AIO, we want to figure out the game plan and think about the purpose of what we learned today. So SEO, it's about building your visibility and authority so you're showing up more often and in more places. You're also forcing your content into more places, the GEO stuff that Sean was talking about, so that more people are finding you when they're looking for answers to the questions that they have. The AIO ensures the AI models find your business and trust your content. So, once upon a time in SEO world, we were writing just around keywords. Well, with the AI, we also have to make sure that we're writing about ourselves in a way that relates to those keywords. The CRO, we get somebody to the site, great. If they don't do anything, then all that AIO, SEO, GEO work was kind of for nothing. So we really need to be doing a critical analysis of our website to say, do we have those right conversion paths? Do we know the drivers? Do we have the right hooks on the site? Can we test other hooks? Do we have barriers that are driving people away? The goal, simple. We want to attract people to the site from everywhere. We want them directly looking for us. We want them finding us in Google results. We want them finding us in AI answers. We want them finding us on social media. We want to engage them by addressing the questions they have, the problems they're facing. Staffing is usually a solution to a problem. It's not the problem itself. So we have to focus on the things that our clients and candidates are really talking about and asking about. And then we have to get them to take action, to give them a compelling reason, not just to reach out to us, but to take action now. Because if they leave your site before they take action, like, I'll get to it later. Yeah, they won't. And you got to hope that they find you again. Every optimization decision should answer, will this help searchers and AI understand why we're the best answer? So again, Ryan, thank you for asking about the they ask you answer, because that's exactly what we've been saying here for the last hour is understand your customers better than they know themselves, the clients, the candidates, understand all the questions they have, the challenges they face, the problems they're trying to address, what it's like to be in their job. Do the really deep research so you know their business so that your website, your content can be providing the answers so that AI, Google, and humans all see you as a trusted resource for great answers. Then we want to be building visibility and authority. So review your performance data. I would leave that to Sean, have him take a look at that. Or I would leave it to Brad. But you want to be looking at Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and just see what's working, what's not working, who's coming to our site, where are they coming from, where are they coming into our site, where are they leaving, how did they find us? Analyze the search visibility. We have software, you may not have software that's the same, but we can look at where you rank for certain keywords, the impressions you're getting, the impressions of those keywords, the click-through rate of those various keywords on your site. So we can see at a very discrete level what's happening when people come to your website, what's happening outside of your website when people are searching those terms. How competitive are they? How much of a chance do you have to really win? And maybe now, if you couldn't win in something in SEO, there may be ways you could actually win in the AIO world. audit frequently asked questions and lists. So Sean gave you some really good ideas in optimizing for AI overviews. You see, Brad, I know this is one you've talked about a lot, is when Google will show you after you do a search, the people also ask. That gives you a list of questions that your website should answer. So we saw an example of frequently asked questions. So if I know all those questions, I may take a page that I know is my doorway page, but somewhere on that page, I'm going to want those list of frequently asked questions, the questions people also ask. So it creates that funnel. I come in here and then I can find deeper answers. That's a big part of that topical authority is I keep people following the thread from where they found us offline or off our website onto our site, onto deeper pages on our site. Schema markup. Guys, I'm not even going to pretend I know how to do this. All three of you know how to do this. So what do these people who are listening today need to be doing in this area?
Sean, I'm going to let you tackle this one.
It's really just about structuring your content properly. So if you have location pages, there's like it's again, I'm not a developer, so it depends on what your site is built on, but you can just add some code on the back end to say like, "Hey Google, we're located in Columbus, Ohio." And you just include that data on the back end and now it just gets sent to LLMs and everybody else. Becca, do you have any technical things you want to add on that front?
Off the top of my head, no, but there are things in the code that we can do to make sure that we are designating what each of those sections are. So that's really easy for Google and for all of the search engines and chats to be able to figure out what that content is.
Yeah, a big one here is that a lot of it's automated too. If you've got a career portal, it should be doing all of this kind of markup, adding frequently asked questions. I know we've actually created a new blog post enhancement tool that creates frequently asked questions. Our career portal automatically adds in all the schema markup. So it's there for Google for Jobs and it's there for Google for SEO. All right, we're already at the top of the hour. So let's get through these last couple of points. We also want to be checking. You can look into now, just like you can see SEO results, you can start to see how AI tools are featuring your brand. And the content clusters, I mean, it's a marketing term, but if you really think about what are the topics of interest my audience has, and then do I have topics of interest that funnel down so I'm giving people expert knowledge around topics that we want to own in our market. And our last slide, always align human insight with AI insight. Because remember, you may be trying to get the AI engines to write about you. You may try to get found in Google results, but ultimately you're trying to connect with a human being. So talk to your team. What questions are they hearing from people? Listen to your clients and candidates when you're doing a job interview, when you're sending people out on assignment, the questions they're asking, the questions the employers are asking. The language they use reveals their not just search intent, but their intent in how they work with you. Review AI responses. What answers are tools like ChatGPT or Gemini showing? Brad gave an example of asking for how the AI would rank staffing companies in a certain market. Our client wasn't in there. So we asked the AI, how'd you come up with this list? And then we asked the AI to kind of grade our client. And you can analyze that data, that output, even talking to the AI to figure out how to improve your own content. And then bridge the gap. Use the human conversations and the AI to create better content, better calls to action, better experiences on your website. You know, it's your eyes, your ears, your brain, you tie it all together and you create the better experience for people. And when you do that, that tends to get you better results for the machines as well. All right, and just to wrap it up, we have one last offer. So we had an offer earlier to spend some time with Sean, but you can also get your website reviewed from a CRO perspective. So we can look at it from an SEO and AIO. We can also look at it from a CRO. And if you're interested in doing that, we have a form for that one. You can go to haleymarketing.com/website review, and we will be more than happy to go through and actually, we've built a new AI site grader that we will use to evaluate your site. And I think, other than repeating Sanj's QR code in case you missed it, that brings us to the end for this webinar. I know we went a little over. Thank you for sticking around with us. We also had a question about whether this would be shared. You can actually find this webinar and all of our recorded Lunch with Haley webinars at the lunchwithhaley.com website. This one should be live by the beginning of next week. And if there are questions, please just reach out. We're always happy to answer. You can get us at our 888 number or info@haleymarketing.com. And last but not least, this is it for November, but we do have 2 webinars coming up in December that we hope you'll join us for. On the 4th of December, we're going to be having a recap of the best of our podcast. So our podcast host, Brad Biley, is going to be sharing the lessons he learned from more than 50 interviews this year with some of the brightest minds in the staffing industry. That should be a really, really good recap session. And our final product demo, I have a feeling you're going to see Becca again, as we're going to look at some of our newest website designs. We're doing some really cool things around CRO and around sort of some employer first thought processes, and we'll be showing them off on Wednesday, December 10th. And from all of us at Haley Marketing, thank you so much for joining us for today's Lunch with Haley webinar. Have a very happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Take care, everyone.